Hey everyone, so in today's video I want to take a look at some of the combat missions in 3.12. This one took me a while, so please be sure to like and subscribe if it helps you. So besides bounty hunting, most of the missions didn't change except for how much they pay out, but even so, these increased payouts make a big difference. Once some of these missions are behaving like they should, they're going to be pretty tough, but with the increased payouts you can actually justify bringing along some crew to take on that challenge. If you're looking for some people to do missions with, feel free to join the Discord. We managed to take out a couple of Idrises a few weeks ago, which was a lot of fun, but people are willing to team up to do other missions as well, so go ahead and join if that sounds interesting to you. So starting off with the first type of mission, I just want to briefly cover group bounties since I didn't include those in my other bounty hunting video. I put these first because if you want to maximize your earning, these are the missions that you're looking for. Unfortunately though, these seem to take a lot of time to unlock, and with some of the issues they've been having with the new reputation system, some people can't even get access to the bounty hunting missions at all. The most recent patch is supposed to fix the issue of certification missions showing up, which is the reason why some people don't have access to any sort of bounty hunting missions, but it still remains to be seen if this patch has really solved all of the issues. But if you can unlock these group bounty missions by doing the certifications and doing enough regular bounties, you can earn a whole ton of credits by doing them. So these missions share the same sort of tiers as the single target bounties and are normally named to indicate which tier they are, except for the ones from Miles Eckhart. You can still tell what difficulty his are though by just looking at the payout. So for example, the high risk target missions pay a bit under 40,000 credits each, and the extreme risk target ones pay 87,000 credits. And just a note on the group bounties from Miles Eckhart, I don't actually think they're the best for earning potential, although I haven't seen an equivalent to the 87,000 credit missions from either North Rock or Crusader. For all of the group bounty missions from Miles Eckhart, you'll have to travel from either Crusader to Hurston or Hurston to Crusader, and I don't think the extra time is worth it versus just staying around one planet and doing the very high risk target group bounties, which are still worth 62,000 credits. Also, with the higher paying ones from Miles Eckhart, you're going to have to take out hammerheads, which is easy for now with the glitch scatterguns as you can see, but these will hopefully be patched soon, and then those missions will be a real challenge, and I don't think the increase in pay is worth the increased challenge, unless you just want to do it for the fun of it, which is definitely valid. So yeah, I think the sweet spot, if you're just concerned about how many credits you're making per hour, are the very high risk target group bounties from either Crusader or North Rock, since you still get a pretty solid reward and the hardest target you should encounter is a Valkyrie. Also, if you do enough of these, you can get pretty significant bonuses, so right now I think I'm at the highest tier with North Rock, which gets me a 20% bonus on any contract I complete for them, but they start at 5% and go up to 10% and then 20%, so you'll still be getting bonuses along the way. Also, with this newest patch, it seems like the bounties spawn in a bit quicker than they have before, especially if the server is doing well in general, so you shouldn't be waiting 5 minutes anymore for the bounty targets, it should be more around a minute to 2 minutes. So that, combined with the fact that now if the bounties happen to run into an asteroid, you still get credit for killing them, and all of the variety in ships that you're going to go up against, makes these new bounty missions really fun to do, and they even pay pretty well. So yeah, if you can get these missions, they're one of the best ways to earn credits in the game right now, and they're pretty fun as well. Now if you are in the situation where you can't seem to get any bounty hunting missions to show up, don't worry, there's some other good options as well. So one pretty easy way to make credits are the Halt illegal surveillance missions. These, like a lot of the missions I'm going to be talking about in this video, are found both around Crusader and Hurston, and for these missions you're directed to go to a comm and destroy 3 monitors that are spread out around it. Usually there would be some light resistance in the form of NPC pirates there as well, but with the state of the servers right now they usually don't show up until after you complete the mission. If they do show up though, just as a tip, I would recommend taking them out, so even though you won't get the call to arms bonus for taking them out, they won't interfere with your scans, which they would if you left them alive, and that can sometimes make it hard to find some of the monitors. But yeah, I usually prefer to do these missions in fighters since the monitors can be spread out and you have pretty limited time for taking them out. These monitors look like mini orbital sentries, but they don't have any guns on them, and you probably won't visually see them or see them on your radar, so you're going to want to hit tab and scan for them. The way I think is best to find them is to use fully charged scans, and if you don't find any monitors on your way towards the array, do a scan while you're directly on top of the array, and some of them should show up. I also find it helpful to mark the comm array again on my map after arriving there, since it's pretty easy to lose it when you fly away from it to go take out a monitor, but if you have it marked you know exactly which direction to fly back to as you're looking for the other monitors. So I do occasionally fail these just because of the time constraint, and it can be challenging to find all 3 monitors, But even considering that, 20,000 credits is pretty good for under 5 minutes of work, so I would definitely recommend these missions. Moving on, Claim Jumper missions used to be one of the best mission types for earning Alpha UEC, and while they aren't the best anymore, they're still pretty good, especially if you can get them from the personal tab, because they have a higher payout there. So these missions have changed a bit beyond just their payout, but it's still the same general idea. There's actually 3 more sentries that you have to take out than before, but they actually seem to go down now instead of tanking a ton of shots like they would sometimes in previous patches. So you have to take out 12 orbital sentries around a mining claim, and these are the main threat when you're doing this mission. There will be prospectors trying to attack you as well, but unless they ram you, they're pretty much harmless. I normally try to save them to take them out after completing the mission because you'll get a slight bonus from call to arms, but it's usually only around 500 credits or so per prospector, so if they are annoying you during the mission, you can just take them out and you're not going to be missing out on that much. The turrets on the other hand though can dish out some damage if you take shots, so just make sure you're strafing or dodging in some way to not get hit. It's not that hard, but if you stay still or fly straight for too long, you can start taking damage pretty quickly. But yeah, these are overall pretty solid missions, and the payout isn't bad at 35,000 for the personal tab version and 22,000 for the lawful version. And they can be fun to do in things like the Hammerhead because there's just a lot of targets to shoot at. Next, I want to take a look at some FPS combat missions because I'm a pretty big shooter fan. Now, I didn't look at the Hurston ones where you go land on the planet and clear out a bunker just because their pay bump still doesn't justify the amount of time it takes to land in Hurston's atmosphere and then take off again after doing the mission, but there still are a few FPS missions that are worth doing. So the first one you can find occasionally around Crusader. It's not always there, but it will show up in the Mercenary tab if it's available. I think it has 2 names, but this time I believe it was called Break-In at Security Post Kareah. Whatever it's called, it's the same mission, and now that it pays 21,000 credits, which is 3 times what it did before, I think it's a pretty good mission. And it's definitely a fun change of pace from just doing a ton of bounty missions. Also, since it's at Security Post Kareah, you don't have to land on any planets or moons to do the mission, which saves a lot of time versus a lot of the other FPS combat options. So all you have to do for this mission is take out 7 bad guys, and it isn't too hard, but sometimes it can be a pain to find the last couple of guys. Also, be sure to have some med pens on hand because they do shoot back occasionally. The other thing to look out for is that since SPK is a place that can be used to clear your crime stat, there will sometimes be real players there trying to do this. However, it's pretty unlikely because most criminals know by now that trying to clear your crime stat at Security Post Kareah is usually a death sentence with how easy it is for bounty hunters to get there and the high ground advantage that they have on the console while you're trying to hack it as a criminal. So I personally haven't run into any issues when doing this mission with regards to real players, but I just wanted to let you know that it is a possibility. But yeah, it's a pretty good mission, and the enemies that spawn here run P4 ARs, which are one of my favorite weapons, and Ravager 212 shotguns, which are also pretty nice. So being able to collect these guns after doing the mission is a nice perk, and after doing a few of these, your inventory is going to look like you're an arms dealer. So if you happen to see this mission pop up when you're around the Crusader area, I would go ahead and do it. So the next mission is a really fun one, and I would argue it's one of the most fun in the game, and that's the 890 jump mission. So this is another one that isn't always available, but if you're around ArcCorp or Microtech, it'll pop up occasionally, and it usually shows up as a notification, so you should get notified of it. So this is an older mission, but with the new payout of 45,000 credits and the removal of the part of the mission where you have to stop a hack within a certain amount of time, this mission is actually worth doing for more than just the fun of it. This one is a bit more challenging than the Security Post Kareah one, but it's still doable solo, and it seems to work slightly better than before even. Knock on wood, I haven't fallen through any elevators or gotten stuck in any doors that won't open, which is more than what I can say for how it was before. So to start this mission, you should make sure to take out the 2 cutlasses that are usually hanging out around the ship, and then proceed to deal with the 20 enemies inside. Now I do usually wait a bit to go inside if I get there really quickly, because there are security guards on the ship and it can be kind of hard to tell them apart from the enemies since most of the lights are out inside the 890. If you do wait for a bit though, they should take out some of the enemies for you and then die so that you don't have to worry about accidentally shooting them yourself. So you can see here, that's what happened as the number of enemies went down without me doing anything. Just as a warning though, they have survived in some instances for me, so this is what they look like. So don't shoot anyone wearing white armor like this, but usually they'll be dead by the time you get there. Now you see me entering through the hangar here, which isn't the best because you take fall damage, but I like to come in this way because after you clear out the enemies in the hangar, which usually hang out around the pillars on the outer edges of it, you can make your way to the port side hangar exit and go set your ICU at the med bay. This should let you spawn back in on the 890 in case someone takes you out. So I forgot to do it in this example, but it's a nice precaution to take because there is a chance that you can die with this mission. The other option for entry point is to come in through the airlocks at the rear of the ship, but I'm not personally a fan of this because the atrium fight is where a lot of the enemies usually hang out, and it can be one of the tougher ones because it's hard to clear them out one by one with all of the wide open angles in that room. So again, the enemies aren't that tough of a fight, but it can be a bit of a hassle finding all of them. In my experience though, you can expect them to only be in a few areas. So the majority of them will be in the hangar, and then another large group will usually be in the large cargo bay at the rear of the ship, which is on the same level as the hangar. Be careful in the cargo area though, because there can be security in there as well, and you don't want to shoot them. The enemies aren't going to be in the engineering rooms off to the side of the cargo bay though, so I wouldn't bother checking there, unless you've exhausted all the other options. The rest should be spread out through the main atrium of the ship, like I said earlier, with a few in the bar area and a few in the sauna. I haven't ever seen any enemies in the captain's quarters or the bridge though, so you probably won't find any in there. Also, the guest rooms tend to be empty usually, so I would mainly just check those few big areas that I mentioned, and then if there are remaining enemies, then you can go on and check the smaller areas. But yeah, as long as you're moderately careful with this, you shouldn't have many problems with this mission, and the 890 is definitely a fun setting for a mission like this. Also, if you really want to, you can even get 20 of the SMGs that the enemy is using each time you do this mission, so that's another bonus. I think I have 60 of them in my inventory right now, but I don't bother to pick them up anymore. So yeah, I definitely recommend doing this mission at least once because it's a whole lot of fun, but it even pays pretty well now, so it's really worth your time. Now moving back to ship combat, I wanted to talk about another type of mission that has a few variants. So these will usually be called something like Eliminate Lowrider's Nest or Clear Hurston Airspace or something like that. There's a lot of names, but if it sounds like moving through an area and clearing it out of enemies and the payout is either 20,000 credits or 35,000 credits, then it's probably one of these missions. So these are found around Hurston and Crusader again, and like I mentioned earlier, there are 2 difficulty levels that correspond with the different reward levels. So the gist of these missions are that you go to an initial start point, and after waiting a little while, you'll be given instructions to fly to various other points and take out any enemies that happen to be there, and you usually have to go to 3 different points. Again, these haven't changed much from previous patches except for how much they pay out, which I think used to be a pretty measly 7,000 and 12,000 credits, and they seem to complete more reliably now, which was always an issue with these in the past. Sometimes you'd get done with them and then they'd just refuse to actually register that you were finished. This does still happen occasionally though, which is why I've recommended other mission types above these, but it's definitely less of an issue now than it has been before. So the 20,000 credit reward ones are pretty easy, and you usually get 1 to 2 smaller enemies spawning per point, so stuff like Buccaneers, Mustang Deltas, and M50s, and you usually have to patrol 3 points, so not too many enemies. With the 35,000 credit ones, the difficulty seems to go up quite a bit though. You often face 4 to 5 enemies per point, and there's often bigger stuff thrown in like cutlasses and sometimes even orbital sentries. These can be pretty tough if you let the enemies swarm you, or if you're not dodging adequately. However, the payouts on these missions are pretty solid, but they're still not the best for the amount of flying you have to do between each point, and just the total amount of enemies you have to deal with per mission. So these missions are fine, but I put them lower down on your priority list than some of the other options, especially since, like I said earlier, they sometimes still do refuse to complete, which is pretty annoying. Okay, so the last mission type I wanted to take a look at are ECN Alerts, and I know I didn't cover every mission type, but I think I got most of the ones that are somewhat worth doing. But if you think I missed something good, go ahead and let me know in the comments. There's always more to learn in Star Citizen. So ECN Alerts are another mission where the only change was a payout increase from previous patches, and it was actually tripled for 2 out of the 3 difficulty levels. The hardest version though remained untouched, but I think that's just an oversight and that'll get fixed eventually. But yeah, funnily enough, the 10,000 credit reward ECN mission is the one with the constellations, so just be aware that the lowest payout one is the hardest one currently. Anyway, these missions all work in pretty much the same way. You go to a quantum beacon, and there's a friendly there at the quantum beacon, and then you have to protect them from 4 enemies that spawn in one by one. For the 12,000 Alpha UEC version, these are all Buccaneers. For the 21,000 version, it's a mix of Cutlasses and Buccaneers, and for the 10,000 credit version, which I'm pretty sure they intend to eventually pay out 30,000 credits, it's 4 Constellation Andromedas. So these missions are pretty easy, and the only real way to fail them is if you take a really long time in taking out the enemies, because they do usually come in one by one, but if you're slow to take out an enemy, the next one will still show up even if you haven't killed the one that you're still on. So if that happens, the ones that you're not currently dealing with can go swarm the friendly and take them out, but this usually doesn't happen, so I wouldn't be too worried about doing these missions. The only thing you might want to consider is just not doing the 10,000 credit ones until their payout gets adjusted to where it should be, since it is a bit harder and takes a bit longer than the other ones. But yeah, these missions have always been solid, and that hasn't really changed in 3.12. So overall, I'm a big fan of the changes to these missions, most of which were just increases in how much they pay out. But like I said earlier, that makes a pretty big difference to how they play and how many crew members you might want to bring along to help with each of them. I'm sure some of you probably feel like they pay out a bit too much now, which I did think as well initially, but I think they're probably close to where they should be. With changes like the increased claim timers and claim prices, it seems like CIG wants to move towards making losing a ship have more consequences, so if you're going to be risking your ship doing combat missions, it's only fair to be compensated for doing so. Let me know your thoughts on this though. This stuff is definitely going to keep changing as development goes on, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful, and if you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, go ahead and join the Discord if you're looking for some crewmates. Thanks for watching!